The Twitter files are released. The Supreme Court debates religious freedom versus discrimination. And Griner comes out and Avenatti goes in. This is the final episode of the year of Cancel This Show. This is Cancel This, episode 37, recorded late December 2022. Yes, this is the last show of the year. A lot to talk about, a very busy month. We'll break it all down, talk all about it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. If you like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PavementRoad Productions. You can email the show directly, pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. And subscribe on YouTube, like our Facebook page, all that stuff. A lot more coming out here. We have our Survivor season finale recap, or season recap, I guess you could say. Episode coming up here in the next little bit. So definitely keep an eye out for that and subscribe so you get it right when we do air it. And of course, this show here as well coming out, plus a lot more to come in the next few months. So a few main topics to talk about here, some overarching topics, and some maybe hope for the new year. That everybody will probably ignore. So let's go ahead and start with the Twitter files. So obviously the Twitter files, it's old news, as CNN and others are saying. It's old news. You know, it's like they all say the same topic. There's like two people in the whole media that basically do all the work for everybody. All right, it's like a group. It's like the worst group project ever. Like it's a group project of like 7,000 people with two people doing all the work. They write up all the talking points. Everybody just repeats it. So not that I should have any original thoughts. So the Twitter files came out. It's old news now because, you know, nobody cares about what happened with Twitter back a couple years ago. Like, who cares? This was like 2020 too, or 2020. It's now 2022. Nobody cares about that back then. You know, it's like it's the same old story. When Democrats get caught doing something bad, they blame the Republicans for noticing, or they deny it. And if they deny it, and then you eventually find out that they are lying and it is true, they say, "Oh, it happened a long time ago. Why are you still worried about that?" Okay, boomer. But yes, of course, Twitter did work with the FBI to conspire with other big tech platforms to censor things. I was censored for saying something that was completely true back in 2020 or 2021. I was censored for saying something that was completely true on YouTube. And other big tech platforms, it's funny, they only fact check things Republicans say. And Democrats can lie through their teeth, right? Like when they have now the Supreme Court, or they had a appellate court appealing the, they were appealing Title 42. Title 42 was the Trump era policy that because of COVID, we can't bring in all these immigrants. So you have to send them back to their own country, you know, to keep the U.S. safe from COVID. Well, the Biden administration was working to get that overturned. They wanted to get rid of it, and in certain border states were fighting to keep it because they didn't want it to be overwhelmed with the immigration stuff again. So the Biden administration was working to get rid of it, and then the court ruled that, yeah, it's no good, or the court in essence ruled that Title 42 can be thrown out, and you know you don't need it anymore, right? So it was thrown out, and a couple of reporters asked the Biden administration and Karine Jean-Pierre about it, and said, "Well, what Title 42 is being canceled. What's your plan for immigration now?" And she said, "Well, we had to get rid of Title 42 because it's court ordered." And the reporter noted, "Yeah, but you wanted it gone." She goes, "Yeah, but it was court order. We have to follow a court order. A court order that you got put in place. You're acting like you're the victim of this when you put it in place." Will anybody fact check that? No, because Democrats don't lie. Because the left thinks that the right lies like crazy. The right thinks everybody lies like crazy. The left is in their own delusional little mind that if you vote for us, if you vote for our people, there'll be no corruption, everything will be good. The right thinks get rid of all government. because everybody's a liar. They're all terrible. Who's more right? But so Twitter, of course, was censoring. You couldn't share the Hunter Biden story right before the election. You know, you couldn't say anything about the Hunter Biden story. You know, the New York Times, the New York Post got kicked off Twitter. You know, at least temporarily, for posting the news story. And it turned out, as we all knew, but the news was lying, CNN was lying, and MSNBC was lying, and all the news outlets, you know, CBS, ABC, NBC were all lying that, Twitter had nothing, Twitter got rid of it because it was misinformation, and it was determining misinformation. Well, it's funny because, you know, the FBI and the other agencies and the Biden administration were putting their hands on the fingers on the scale and preventing the information being spread because it was going to hurt Biden right before the election. And 16% of people who voted for Biden said they wouldn't have had they known about the Hunter Biden laptop. But who cares, right? Nothing to see here. The corrupt agencies have been lying to you. They're corrupt as hell, and they've been lying to you for a long time. And when we were pointing out, like, okay, I think there's more going on here. I think the FBI is involved in this. They're saying, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're lying. Oh, you're crazy, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that we're right, because so many times we are. So many times when people say stuff that seem outrageous because there's no way the government's that corrupt. You have no trust in the government. The government's that corrupt. Turns out we're right. Turns out we're always right. Almost always. But they keep saying, oh, it's wrong. That's a conspiracy theory. That didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. It turns out, yeah, actually did. But it's too late. It's funny, they admitted the Hunter Biden laptop was true after the 2022 primaries. They waited 2 years till any major election that till after, all the major elections were done. And they said, oh yeah, you know what, the laptop is real. But it's old news, who cares? Nothing to see here. Or it's, oh, Biden's corrupt, that's all there is to it, it's Biden. But hey, at least it's not Trump. Look at Trump over here, Trump. Right. So stupid. It's always got to be good versus bad. It's always to be this side's good, this side's bad. No, actually, both sides have flaws. Like pretty much every fight ever, history is written by the winner, and the winner was the victim who was perfect and overcame the evil of the other side. Right? Now, in some cases, that is true. In some cases, but most cases, it's not. Like, who are the good guys in the French and Indian War? Right? Why is it called the French and Indian War? The French and the Indians weren't really fighting with each other. Right? I mean, so there's so many things that are just, everything's corrupt. I mean, don't even, you don't have to even look any further. Everything, you can know everything's corrupt. But, as long as Trump is defeated, who cares, if the country burns down, as long as Trump burns with it. Okay, I guess. I'd rather not do that, but that's what you want, right? But, again, it's about, the media would never lie, or the FBI, and, the FBI is not corrupt. It's just, the election was a perfectly fair election. No information was suppressed. No information was conspired to be suppressed. And again, what I mean by conspiracy, I mean the FBI says there's going to be misinformation coming out. So make sure that you're on high alert for that. So that information comes out, and the FBI and all these former Secret Service or former intelligence agents say, this looks like misinformation. So, of course, Twitter well, I don't want the FBI giving me a hard time, so I'm just going to suppress the story. It's quid pro quo. It's indirect, but it's quid pro quo. And Trump got impeached for that. But I digress. But of course there's corruption. Yeah, there was a fair election. There was, but lots of information was suppressed. And you tried to communicate certain things, you were shut down. You weren't allowed to. And of course, they said for the entire time to cover their own asses, and especially, this is most Twitter I'm talking about. There is some big tech stuff that's, I'm sure a lot of it is run the same way. But all of, again, they said that some members of the right were trying to reach out to get some stories suppressed because they had to fight back. But when a member of the right reaches out to somebody on Twitter, and somebody on the left reaches out to somebody on Twitter, the person on the left is talking to their friends, or the person on the right is talking to their enemies. And their enemies may give them mercy, and may give them, just to say we are working with both sides, they may answer 2% of their emails, whereas on the left, they're answering 100% of the emails. Right, and it's and of course they hide behind the algorithm. Oh, the algorithm just it spotted something that was bad or against our policy, so it flagged it or suppressed it. But we learn now that there's a lot of people actually behind those algorithms. And of course, people create the algorithms, but a lot of people were reviewing the content too. They were shadow banning people. They said, oh, we don't shadow ban. Okay, well, whatever you call it is what you're doing. It's like, what is the definition of is? Depends what the definition of is. Right, Bill Clinton? But yeah, so that's, of course, and of course they were taking, people like Dan Bongino, and, you couldn't search for his tweets because, it was misinformation. And it's funny because people always say, oh, it's only it's just corruption. You're just being a Karen, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. It's, no big deal here. Well, that's funny because you only suppress one side. And imagine, could you imagine if somebody on the left was being suppressed like that, right? Somebody on the, people on the left were the ones being suppressed. They'd say, oh, this is tyranny. This is the government's corrupt, blah, blah, blah. But it's literally only one side that's being suppressed. There's terrorist groups, terrorist leaders who have Twitter accounts. But grandmas who vote for Republicans don't have Twitter accounts. It's insane. And of course, it's corrupt. Of course, they were lying. Of course, they were hiding the information. Of course, they were saying, "Oh, this isn't happening," or it's just the computer. Well, again, you program the computer, and there is organizations outside of the CEO, outside of Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey wasn't even part of a lot of the conversations. They're saying, "Well, we have to get rid of Trump. How can we do it? Let's find a way. We don't like this account. We don't like what they're saying. We don't like their outreach. Let's find rules that they broke. Okay, libs of TikTok. They didn't break any rules, but we have to find a way to get rid of her because she's spreading information we don't like. So we can't find any specific rules. We'll just ban her for something. We'll ban her and fill it in later. It's like you're not even following your own rules, and it's people you don't like who are on the right that you're banning. But who cares? It's just a company, build your own Twitter, do what you want. Yes, but when the government steps in and tells businesses that this is what they should do, wink, wink, hand in glove, working hand in glove with these organizations, that is a violation of the law, right? And we're also talking about, oh well, we're gonna force a baker to bake a cake for a gay wedding because that's protected. But if you vote a certain way or you speak a certain way, you can be discriminated on by a different company. It's fine. It's only rules. Only rules. Discrimination rules only apply when it helps the left. That's it. So all these files are coming out, all this information. Musk is releasing them to these journalists, and the journalists aren't. They're kind of similar to Musk, where they're more center left. They're definitely not center right or right wing. But the journalists are not being slandered. They're being called, sellouts or right-wing extremists and this and that. It's like, man, these journalists are doing the job you refuse to do. Other journalists, quote-unquote journalists. You're refusing to do the work that these guys are doing. And then they do the work, and you're like, oh, you're a sellout. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're, and they're personally attacking the people who are releasing the information. It's like, you obviously know that it's corrupt because you obviously are in bed with this, because if they were exposing something you were shocked by, you'd be saying, wow, this is huge news. But no, instead you're attacking the people who are releasing it in the news. Because, the free press, who then can be attacked by other members of the free press. There's no shock. Nobody's like, oh my God, I'm surprised that Twitter was doing this. Nobody's saying that. Why are they saying that? Because they knew it. They knew it all along. And they're trying to hide the story. And the journalists who are actually doing journalism and actually holding, power, holding, truth to power are the ones being attacked because they're saying things that, shh, you're not supposed to talk about that. Quiet. You sell out. I mean, apparently a lawyer for the FBI was going through some of the information before it was released to make sure the FBI didn't look bad. A former lawyer for the FBI was going through the information that was about to be released on the corrupt work of the FBI, and he's going through it, making sure that it doesn't hurt the FBI. Well, why are we doing that? Why is a person who used to work for the FBI going through the FBI files? I mean, it's just absurd. And if you believe that anything, again, the government, saying, well, it's a nice little social media platform we got here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. It'd be a shame if we took away all your protections and started going through your information and trying to, get you on tax codes and fine you for things. Wouldn't that be something? What would you do if the government came in? The government can destroy you if they want to. What would you do? You'd cave too. So it's not Twitter's fault, but they lied about it. I don't really blame Twitter. I blame the corruption from the top, pushing Twitter to act in that way. But that's just me. So moving on now, let's talk about a couple additional topics here. What I want to talk about next is a Supreme Court case. Of course, been a lot of stuff with the Supreme Court lately. Depending on what side you're on, some really good, some not so good. But the thing I want to talk about though is there's a case in front of the Supreme Court that talks about whether they had the bakery case where a baker didn't want to make a cake for a gay wedding because it was against their religion. And there was another, I guess another one now that they wanted to do they did a website design, and a gay couple wanted to make a wedding announcement for their gay wedding or whatever. Put together a website to do the announcement for their wedding, and it was against their religion. They're against gay marriage, so they turned it down. And of course, now Congress is with Republicans and some Republicans and Democrats trying to redefine marriage to make it be any two people can get married, and it doesn't matter religion or race or anything, gender I should say, and that doesn't matter. Which I've said before. I said gay marriage is is a religious term. So you can have it. You want your state to have the same. Want people to have the same protections as married couples. They can do that, but it should be a state issue, not a federal issue. Of course, the federal government has to overreach and do everything. You can't just have states, do things the way they want to do them. The federal government has to, of course, get involved. Just the way it is. So to kind of go along with that, so there's a Supreme Court case, and basically the Supreme Court is deciding is it religious freedom or discrimination? Basically, religious freedom. Do you have religious freedom to serve who you want to serve in your business, or is it discrimination to not serve certain people? And I'm going to have a hot take here. It might be the hottest take I've had this year. I think it's time to get rid of discrimination laws. Yeah, how about that? Affirmative action's getting challenged anyways because they're discriminating against Asians because there's too many Asians getting to universities, top level universities, and there's not enough minorities of color. So Asians are taking up all the spots, and so they're trying to limit the number of Asians and replace them with other races. And in some cases, they're even lowering the standards to get into the schools because of they want to have more inclusivity, right? So they're getting several schools are getting sued because they're discriminating against Asians because Asians do really well in the process. Indians and whoever, so. They're discriminating. It was ruled they're discriminating because they, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who does well. I mean, obviously, look at our current government. You think the government is made up of this brightest and the best and brightest? Like, do you think the best and brightest people work for the government? Look at Karine Jean-Pierre. Is she the smartest person who could get that job? No. She's a gay black woman. That's why she got the job. She's not qualified. She's terrible. She reads every answer. Right? They asked, I said this earlier, but they asked her about the Supreme Court, ruling. And she said, well, the Supreme Court ruled that way. Yes, and that's the way you asked them to rule. Yeah, but now we have to follow their order. But that's, you submitted the claim to the court, and you wanted them to rule that way, and they did. So now you're saying, no, we have to follow what they ruled. But you wanted them to rule that way, right? And they ask a question, and she just reads the answer. They ask her about the border. She goes to her section of the book about the border and reads the answer. And they ask her a question about the Supreme Court. She reads her answer about the Supreme Court. Like, it just is completely unqualified. But again, choose the diversity hire. Why should we get rid of discrimination laws? Here's another one reason why. Because we don't need them. Because back when we needed them, people of different colors and races were considered less than. And it's not true. It never has been true. Right? But we know that now. As a society, we've come so much further. Like, they have to keep the discrimination laws on the books because they want people to feel like they're being discriminated against. Right? Let me ask you this. Obviously, in the 60s and whatever, we needed those laws. Sure. But right now, we definitely do not. We definitely do not need those laws. If you don't want to serve people who are black, who are gay, who are whatever, that's gonna come out. And instead of you being sued for discrimination, and maybe the court upholds your religious freedom to do that, you're gonna force. I mean, how can the court rule in this? They rule, okay, you're Christian and you're against gay marriage, but you have to bake a cake for a gay couple. You have to. Okay, well, are you gonna make the best cake you've ever made in your life? No, because your heart's not in it, right? So you discriminate against them. So now the court's ruling against you. You have to bake this cake. Well, that's just dumb. Why would you bake a cake for somebody? Why would you make somebody bake? Why would you want somebody to bake a cake for you that doesn't want to? They're not going to give you the best work, but it's about forcing them. It's about imposing your will. That's what it's about. Instead of going to the court, then the court rules, okay, well, we can't tell them they have to make the cake because either they're going to rule that they have to make the cake, and the person's not going to make a great cake because their heart's not in it, or they're going to rule that the court's going to rule that it's their religious freedom they don't have to make the cake. Instead of going to the court, go to social media and say, hey, they won't make this cake for us because we're gay, because we're black, because we're Jewish. Okay? And then that business will be out of business. Right? That's all you got to do. There's somebody else who will pop up and say, hey, there's another business pop up next door and say, hey, this guy next door won't serve black people. And Biden said that. He says you're gonna be married today and run out of a restaurant tomorrow for being gay. Nobody's being run out of a restaurant for being gay. Okay? If somebody doesn't want to use their craft to create something for you as an art project, that's using their artistic ability to create something for you, that's their prerogative. And that's way different than not. The laws were put in place so the government couldn't step in and say, well, blacks have to sit in this section, whites have to sit in this section. And blacks get the crappy stuff, and the whites get the good stuff. That's what it came in. And it was for the government to step in and do that, because the government couldn't force that. And that's why the laws were put in place. It was never for the actual citizen, anyways. It wasn't for the actual business, anyways. And even if it is, even if a business, even if there are that many people who just, I'm not serving black people in my restaurant because I hate black people. If that's what they're going to do, guess what? They'll be out of business in 5 minutes. Somebody will pop up next door who will serve black people and will take that whole market share, and then it'll be that, and they'll be out of business. I mean, they try to put a business on. There was a school that these college students went to a bodega or whatever, little convenience store, and they tried to steal alcohol, and they said they were being racially profiled. and they sued, and the school said, basically defamed this business. And turned out the kids did try to steal. Right, so they won in court, and the school had to pay for. The school basically told the college. The school took the word of the college students and said that who said they were being discriminated against for the race, and they disparaged the business, and they got sued and they lost, and they had to pay. And so that's the only reason the court needs to step in is for disparaging and for defamation. But the market will bear it out, right? The government can't make laws discriminating against people, but if business owners want to do that, if they want to be out of business in 5 minutes, go ahead. Because there's no need for that in today's day and age. There's no need for it. There's no need for diversity quotas, because people who are hired who are incompetent because of the diversity, that hurts the business. It also hurts them because they're in a position that they aren't suited for. And if they are suited for it, the people who are suited for it and are capable, people could look at them and say, "Hey, you don't got this because of the diversity quota." If that was gone and they just simply hired the best people, if it was simply meritocracy, then nobody would have to feel that way. People would be hired because they're good, because they're good at their job. That's it, and that's all that's needed. We don't need anything else beyond that. It's just silly to me. It's really silly. Why do we need discrimination laws or anti-discrimination laws? If you want to open up a business that says, I'm only serving Aryans at my restaurant, guess what? The restaurant's going to get me out of business. Because not enough people, there's not enough hate, not enough racism to go around. Most of the racial issues are either made up or overblown. Because people aren't racist like that. They got to keep the racial hustlers, fed. You got to keep feeding the race hustlers. So keep giving them stories, even if they're not true. But the truth is, we don't need laws that says you have to. The government needs to get the heck out of the way. And if they want to make laws that get like, hey, to be a county clerk, you have to be able to give, gay marriage certificates out, because that's what we do here. And that's fine too. I'm willing to meet in the middle on that. If you won't give out a certificate to a gay couple because you don't believe in it, but you're a county clerk who works in a county that has gay marriage as part of their, is something that they have, then you can't have that job. But at the same time, you can't tell somebody you can't run your business the way you want to run it, because you have to serve people that you don't want to serve, right? You have to use your artistic ability to do that. I don't even care about that. I don't want to serve people who are under 18 in my store because they might steal. Okay, if that's what you want to do, you can have whatever rules you want to have. You can literally have a black-owned business that only serves black people. Will you get sued for discrimination? There's no way you would. And then, guess what? That's what you want to do. Great. You're right. Go into a barbershop in Harlem. You're gonna see a lot of that, right? If they don't want to take the white guy's money because they want only black people, working there and patronizing that business, fantastic. That's their right. But we can't have it both ways. You can't force a business to serve somebody they don't want to serve, and then at the same time let other businesses that we do like, we want diverse business owners, okay, but since you're a minority, you can only serve minorities. That's fine. But you as a white guy or the white woman, you have to serve everybody. Get out of the way. The less government regulation, the better. No more discrimination laws. Let things play out the way they will. I guarantee you today, a white guy opens a business that says no blacks allowed, they'll be out of business in minutes. And they should be. Because society is at the point where we don't need that. The government control is just They're controlling things they don't need to control. Just let it go. That's what I think. Finally, to wrap up here for the final topic of the year, it's actually kind of two topics. I'm going to combine them because I think together they kind of symbolize 2022 in a nutshell. I mean, all pretty much if you want to look at the problems 2022 had, and there was some good stuff, some bad stuff. I mean, we got to go outside again, right? They got rid of a lot of the mask mandates and that kind of stuff. The vaccine mandates were shot down in court. A lot of things that were bad from a couple of years before, were better for this year. But we're still in a bad spot. And a lot of that is because of these two topics I want to wrap up with. It involves jail. Brittney Griner out, Michael Avenatti in. And they're not related, but they kind of represent, I think, they represent this year in a big way. I think those two stories together represent 2022 and where we are as a society right now. So, as you know, Brittney Griner was the female WNBA basketball player who was in jail in Russia for a long time. Now, she was in for a few months, probably like 8 months. And she was convicted of bringing a small amount of cannabis into the country. She went to the country to play basketball in the offseason from the WNBA, when that is, who knows, because who watches the WNBA. But anyways, so she went there to play in a league and had some back pain from playing. So she has a little bit of cannabis, brought into Russia, got caught with it, and was sent to jail for drugs. Now, obviously, Russia doesn't have a drug problem because they put people in jail for drugs. It's pretty simple. Obviously, she got like 9 years for a little bit of cannabis, which is just stupid. And obviously, it was outrageous that she was given that much jail time and sent to a prison camp for 9 years for having a little bit of cannabis. But the media will spin it that she was wrongly convicted, wrongly held in Russia, and that's not true. You go to another country, you're subject to their laws. Now, I believe was it Lonzo Ball, when he was a rookie, went to China and got caught stealing and was sent to jail. And Trump was president at the time, who Lonzo Ball wasn't necessarily a fan of. And Trump got him out of jail in like 2 weeks. Biden couldn't get Brittney Griner out for like 8 months. And had to give up the merchant of death for her. So, Brittney Griner, African-American female lesbian basketball player, captured in Russia for committing a crime in Russia. They want to get her back. Obviously, she's a U.S. citizen, so they want to get her back. So Russia says, we'll give her back to you in exchange for the Russian citizen that we have, that the U.S. has captive. It was a sting operation that got him captured, and he's known as the Merchant of Death, the biggest arms trafficker in the world. So gun control, baby. So they release now, and then of course the initial story was because there are a couple Americans who are held in Russia. There's a teacher who was caught with cannabis for back pain, and he's still in jail. And then there's also a Marine who was captured, former Marine, whatever, who was captured, and they said Russia is holding him, saying he's a spy. Now, he's clearly not a spy, but Russia's holding him anyways. So they wanted to trade Brittney Griner for the Merchant of Death. And the initial reports were Biden made an offer. We'll give you the American spy, as they call him, the Marine who's being held, or we'll give you Brittney Griner. You pick for the Merchant of Death. And then the story was changed because that looked really bad. That Biden made the choice to take the rich African American lesbian over the straight white guy who served his country. The one who kneeled for the national anthem and spit in the face of her country instead of the one who served his country. So then the story changed that, they're offered either or they weren't offered either or, they're offered Brittany Griner or nobody. Which, of course, isn't true, because why would it be true? Why, if you're Russia, why do you care who you give up? You're getting the one you're getting. It's like you're getting Kobe Bryant in his prime for a high school basketball player, right? You're getting Wayne Gretzky for a minor leaguer, right? Of course, you don't care what minor leaguer you get. Why do you care? They're going to give you the person you want more than anything. And you still have more. You still have another bargaining chip. So you say, okay, we're going to give you one of them, you pick. We don't care who it is. But even if that's not true, why do you give up that for not both of them? They would have, if you would have pushed hard enough, Biden, they would have given you both those prisoners for that guy back. Of course they would have. Because they want him back. They need him back more than we need our guy back. So, of course, Biden could have gotten both of them back, but he didn't push hard enough, and he waited 8 months to do it. Because Biden's weak. He's pathetic. And the key here is, if you're a straight white guy who's just a common blue-collar military person who serves your country, you love your country, you're the lowest form of life in America. If you're a African-American, lesbian, rich person, rich is, rounding it up, because the WNBA doesn't make that much money, but a famous person at least, you have fame in some capacity, again, as famous as a WNBA player could be, but you have fame, and you make more than the average person, and you're African-American, lesbian, and you spit on your country, you're exalted, you're a hero, you're held up. So that is the truth. That's what happened. And that just shows you that who is valued in this country. Biden didn't have to make that choice. And of course, Russia, after the choice was made, after they got Brittany Griner back, Russian propaganda news was laughing and joking about it because they let the white guy rot and took the black lesbian. Yeah, go figure. Of course they did. Why wouldn't they? Because in society, one is valued more than the other. One life, if it's a black female lesbian, her life is way more valuable than the straight white guy. Period. Full stop. And of course, the media's going to say, well, of course, because, black people have been so oppressed. Yes, she's oppressed. Tell me how she's oppressed. Explain to me. I'll wait. She gets to play a game, make more money than the average person, can disrespect her country, but she's oppressed. Meanwhile, the guy who serves his country is privileged because he's white. I think the race card has been gone long ago. The white privilege card has been gone long ago. But they just keep talking about it, so it's going to be a thing as long as they keep talking about it. But white privilege has not been a thing for a long, long time. Jussie Smollett killed white privilege. He murdered white privilege. So don't tell me about, white people have it so easy in this country and black people have to struggle. That's not, economically, maybe in some cases, statistically, that's how it is. But it has nothing to do with the country itself. Biden tells you if you're a white guy, go screw yourself. If you're a black female lesbian, we love you. You can't tell me anything else. You can't tell me that's not true. Because it is. That story is a fact. That's what happened. The other part of it, of course, is the other story I want to link together here is, of course, the Avenatti story. So Michael Avenatti, they literally, on, I think, The View, called him the Holy Spirit. I'll say that again. On The View, they called him the Holy Spirit. Because he was everywhere. He saw everything. He knew everything. And, of course, the reason he was a saint is because he was going to take down Trump. because him and his client Stormy Daniels had dirt on Trump. They were going to get Trump impeached, thrown out of office. If they couldn't get him impeached, thrown out of office, Michael Avenatti was going to run for president against him and beat him. And he was going to be gone, and Avenatti was going to be president. It was going to be great. Except Avenatti was a con man. A scumbag con man who ripped off Nike, ripped off Stormy Daniels, and, not as importantly, not as well known, but also ripped off a blind man. He stole from a blind man who he was supposed to be representing. Avenatti was a hero for months, and now that he's going to prison for years, thankfully, for all his crimes, all his scams that he was running, they're not talking about it anymore. It's weird. He was the greatest thing ever. Michael Cohen, the attorney, was great. He was going to take down Trump. Anybody who's going to take down Trump was a hero. Doesn't matter if they're actually wearing a giant flaming piece of garbage. Doesn't matter, because they were going to take down Trump, because Trump was worse. I mean, I swear, if they had a choice between Hitler and Trump, they would have taken Hitler. No doubt about it. And I said before, if 9/11 would have happened while Trump was president, half the country would have said, well, America deserved it because they elected Trump. 2,000 people died. Well, Trump was president. It's his fault. So it's the terrorists had a right to do it. That's what would have happened. I guarantee it. I mean, Trump's brother dies, and the trending topic is wrong Trump. Because the left is compassionate. They're the ones who believe in equal rights for all, and love, and peace and love, and bullshit. Because they're full of it. But why are these two stories so important? Because it tells you in 2022, identity matters. Race matters. Sexual orientation matters. Meritocracy does not matter. The kind of person you are does not matter. Your respect, your patriotism, it actually works against you. If you're respectful and you are a gentleman and you don't push the black lesbian out of the way to get on the plane so you can go to free and let her rot in prison, no, you let her go because you're a man, you can handle it, and that's in your chivalrous like that. Not necessarily his choice, but he said he understood. But you do that, and you love your country, you're bad. Because your country is horrible, and your country should be torn down. And the media makes winners and losers. Avenatti was a hero. He was the winner. He was the good guy. He was a saint. He was literally the Holy Spirit, according to the media. The Holy Spirit. I kid you not. But then when he does something illegal, which obviously he was a scumbag, you can tell him day one he was a scumbag, and he goes to jail, they sweep them under the rug because they can't talk about it, because they made him a saint. How can a saint go to jail? How can a saint be a criminal? How can a saint be a scumbag who's ripping off all his clients? Who stole from Nike and Stormy Daniels and other people? They made him a hero. They can't then make him a villain. You have to just brush the story under the rug. It has to go away. The fact is, there are winners and losers. There are people who are more valuable than others in society. And it's all based on skin color. And sexual orientation. And if you're a straight white guy, you better be a damn liberal. Like a hardcore anti-Trump liberal. Because if you're a white Christian conservative, you are the lowest form of life in America today. And the media keeps saying, white privilege and this and that. And yeah, you can't go to church. They shut down your church for months. For a year. Told you couldn't go to church. But you could protest in honor of George Floyd. What's more important? Literally taking a knee in honor of George Floyd or going to church? Which one is allowed? Well, one is in the Constitution, one is not. But that's where we are in 2022. Here at the end of 2022. That's where we are. So my piece of good news, my piece of advice, if you will, is we don't have to let them be in control. CNN's ratings are terrible. MSNBC's ratings are terrible. Nobody watches that garbage. All you have to do is see what's going on and vote accordingly. The Republican Party is a joke. The Democrat Party is a joke. Neither one's any good. But the bottom line is meritocracy and judging people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, is what is most important. In 2022, in 2023 and beyond, don't let that be the narrative. We are better than that. You know, some people are good, some people are bad. The media will tell you what to think. They'll tell you, well, this person's bad because they like Trump and they're a Republican. This person's good because they hate Trump and they're a Democrat. Well, guess what? There are a lot of terrible Republicans. There are a lot of terrible Democrats. And there are good Democrats and good Republicans. And the further we go to the extremes, the worse we're getting. But whatever the media says, take it with a grain of salt. The good news is, nobody's listening to it anymore. People have tuned it out. The media has lower approval ratings than Congress and herpes combined. Okay, so the fact is, all you have to do is turn it off. All you have to do is think for yourself. We can come together. We absolutely can. We don't have to let the media divide us because they want to. You know that. You can see it. You can see it based on the two stories I just told you. The Brittany Griner story, the Michael Avenatti story. Together. They're telling you who's good, who's bad, who you should like, who you shouldn't like, right off this whole population. Right off half the country. Hillary Clinton called half the country deplorables. So half the country is written off right there. They're deplorable, they're evil, they're terrible. Biden did the same thing. He called them MAGA extremist Republicans. And what's a MAGA extremist Republican? Anybody who votes against Joe Biden. And he says, no, it's just the extremes. Oh, really? Because then he says, he lists things that are MAGA extremist Republicans as anti-abortion, pro-gun, pro-God. He's a Christian. He considers himself a Catholic, an Irish Catholic, but he's pro-abortion. It's not being pro-abortion is not in the Bible. Killing babies, having sex out of wedlock and killing the baby is not in the Bible. Just saying. But we all have things we can disagree on. There are plenty of people I disagree with on a lot of topics. But I still support them. I'll still watch their movies. I'll still read their books. I'll still listen to their podcasts. Because it doesn't matter. Some people are good in some ways, people are bad in some ways. Everybody's both, though. And when you say that this person's perfect, they're a hero. They better not go to jail for 14 years. If you know what I'm saying. If they're the Holy Spirit, if they're a deity, if they are a God, you better look through their entire background and make sure that they have never in the past, will never in the future do anything wrong. Because you lifted them up to be like a hero. And they're not. Judge people as they are and don't judge them harshly. I'm not saying you have to trust them if they show you they aren't trustworthy. But just because somebody did something wrong in the past doesn't make them bad. Just because somebody did something good in the past doesn't make them good. People are people. I've been preaching this for how long? And the good news is the media doesn't have the power. You don't have to listen to them. You can do your own thing. You can judge for yourself. And I hope going forward, 2022 and the rest of 2022, the couple days left, and all of 2023 and beyond, we realize this. All they're doing is dividing. It's done on purpose. because they divide you, they keep you angry and isolated, and they can control you that way. They say, you vote for me, we'll stop the white supremacists from name one white supremacist you know personally. Name one. Go. I'll wait. They don't exist. They're very, very rare. Let me say they do exist, but they're very, very rare. I guarantee you there are more black supremacists than white supremacists in America today. 100% guaranteed. No questions asked. But the problem is you have to call it as it is. The bottom line is you have to. You can't say, well, they're bad, but they're on our side. No. False. Wrong. You're on the side of bad then. If you support bad people because they're on your side, you are then on the side of bad. If you support evil because it's on your side, you're on the side of evil. Period. Enough. Americans are good people. A lot of them have lost their way. Many have. And Americans, not one of them is perfect. But it's a good place. It's a good country. Do you think if Brittany Griner wanted to stay in Russia, they would have let her? She didn't want to stay in Russia. The laws there are not good. Their government is not good. Their country is not good. Compared to here. Compared to the country that she said was systemically racist. Yeah, well, I think China and Russia are a little worse. I'm just saying. And I don't think she knows that now. Maybe she learned a lesson. I doubt it. Because she didn't have really any consequences. Because there are no consequences for doing bad things in this country anymore. You get just caught out. You say something that they don't agree with you. They cut you off social media. That's about it. Those are the consequences. You get canceled. But I'm here to tell you, just because you don't agree with somebody, just because you don't like them, just because they're a jerk, they deserve better. They deserve your grace. They deserve your compassion. You know, the bully in high school, the bully in school, or in middle school, in elementary school, who picked on you on the school. The probably reason they picked on you was probably because something with them, not with you. So keep that in mind. There's more of us than there are of them. The term journalist just means elitist. Don't let them tell you how to think. Don't let your teachers, your professors tell you how to think. Don't let your government officials tell you how to think. Don't let your celebrities and your musicians and your actors and actresses tell you how to think. Think for yourself. Your neighbor who votes differently than you would probably help you if you were stranded. You know, if your house was on fire, they'd call 911 and go in and help you. They would be there for you, even though they voted differently. Because it's so easy to write people that are nameless and faceless, people on the internet. Just write them off. Oh, they're a crazy left winger. Oh, they're a radical right winger. No, they're just people. And all of us have problems. People are the problem. People also could be the solution. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. You can look at our Facebook page, facebook.com/pavementroadprod. Email the show directly at pavementroadproductions@gmail.com. Subscribe right there on the YouTube channel. This is the last show of the year. So make sure you subscribe so you get everything for the new year that we do come out with. Try to get out some more shows next year. I'm going to try to do something different. My plan going forward is I want to try to have more debates. Like bring back like a version of like Hannity and Combs. You remember what that is? You have a leftist and a right winger debate topics, and then with a moderator. That's what I'd like to have happen on these shows more often. But that's something to look forward to. I'm not sure that's what's going to happen, but that's something I want to do. So that's what I'm working on now. So if you know people who be into that and who love to debate and are educated on topics, fantastic. Send them my way. We'll get this rolling for next year. That's the plan for next year. Obviously, we have our reality TV stuff coming back once that comes back in March and maybe February. And we'll try to get some more sports stuff out for you as well as we go forward. So subscribe so you get everything. If you like it, great. If you're not into that topic, you can just ignore it. But subscribe so you don't miss the stuff that you do like. We try to record as regularly as possible, but it doesn't always happen that way. Here's to a bright 2023. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But we also have to get off the tracks and don't get run over by the train. Change direction. Go a different way. Take a different path. We can make the decisions we want to make. We can change the direction of the country. Because I guarantee you, pretty much nobody thinks we're going in the right direction. Thinks that things are better than they were years ago. And I'm not saying the answer is Trump, by the way. I'm not saying we need to bring him back. But we can agree that we're not on the right track either now. Have a happy and blessed New Year. Great Christmas. And until next time, bye, Dan.